completely. We had a plan to complete in May, but unfortunately, COVID-19 came in March. And that has, I won't say slowed us down, that has completely stopped us. The plan was to complete Lagos-Ibadan in May and resume work, or start work rather, from Ibadan to Kano, beginning from the Kano-Kaduna axis between June and July. Unfortunately, we have not been able to start, even though we now have a presidential directive that we must commence work before September. We are currently meeting with the Chinese company to come out with a strategy in which we can start work before September without having to lose workers to COVID. Again, we believe that before the end of July, we should be at the cabinet seeking approval for the Bonny-Port Harcourt-Maiduguri rail line with the Bonny Deep Sea Port and the industrial park in Port Harcourt. That's where we are now.
Well, Minister, let me bring you back to the Lagos-Ibadan. Thank you for that and just telling us how far you've gone. In terms of all the issues to do with compensation, obviously the lines run through certain routes that pass through people's either plots of land or houses. And yes, the government make the argument of right of way. In terms of that, is all that settled on a day like Democracy Day when people are looking to you to hear something positive? Is all that sorted now?
I'll be surprised if there's anybody we're owing. And we're not paying the government rate, we're paying the commercial rate. We allow the experts to value those properties, and we pay at the commercial rate. I'm not sure we're owing anybody. If we are, let the person come forward and we'll be able to pay. We've been able to discharge our responsibility in that regard. Even where we demolished primary schools, we've rebuilt the primary schools. And there are a few places where the communities are complaining about erosion due to the elevation of the right of way. That we are looking into to ensure, it's not about compensation, it's about ensuring that people don't suffer from erosion. The essence of development is not to bring suffering. It's to ensure that those whose lands are utilized will benefit from it.
The sources of funding for many of these projects, because many of the projects you're talking about, the Lagos-Ibadan rail line, the Kaduna-Kano, the Ibadan-Kano, and the Bonny one you mentioned just now that you'll be seeking up, they run into billions of dollars. Can you tell us a little bit about how easy or how difficult it has been to get the funding? How are you getting the funding for this?
It's not been easy. It's been. We must then attribute our success in that regard to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Buhari, and a lot again to the Minister for Finance. The Chinese government has been able to fund Lagos-Ibadan, 1.6 billion, out of which we pay the counterpart funding of 15%. Now, we're going to pay the counterpart funding of the $5.3 billion, which we are borrowing for the Ibadan to Kano. The president has directed the release of about $318 million for this year. Hopefully by next year, more money will be released. We believe that by the time we complete it, we would have been able to complete the contribution of 15% of the $5.3 billion. Similarly, when we commence work on the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri, which starts from Bonny, we will also be required to pay the counterpart funding. The most important thing is that the Chinese government and the Chinese people have been very helpful to Nigeria. They've released 1.6 billion for Lagos-Ibadan. They've agreed to approve, and we hope that by October, they should be able to approve the $5.3 billion for the federal government of Nigeria, so that we can commence and complete the construction of the Ibadan to Kano segment of it. We believe that if we conclude our conversation with the Chinese company, we should, before the end of August or September, have commenced work from Kano to Kaduna.
And for the Abuja-Kaduna standard, gauge rail line, it's a bit of a mouthful. There was a lot of fanfare, when it came on stream. We saw the pictures of the rides and all that. Just clarify for us what we hear about whether the line is running at a loss and just how that is being managed, because we know that there is that loan to be serviced. How is that going, and is it working as you expected it to in terms of revenue?
In terms of revenue, initially we were making a loss of about 46 million naira every month. But now we are making a profit of about 109 to 110 million naira in every month. And I know that it's basically because of the pressure on the Kaduna-Abuja road. We believe that when the security improves, there may be the need for gentlemen and ladies to use their cars. But currently we have moved from 300 passengers per day to about 4,000 passengers per day, per month.
Let me ask you, Honorable Minister, now, earlier on when you were talking about the sources of funding for this, you talked about the Chinese have been very helpful. Now, some of this money is actually loans, right? So we're going to have to pay back. How can many of these projects, which many people would call social services, generate the kind of revenue to allow us to pay back these loans without resort to other means?
Sorry, initially I had said that we have 4,000 passengers per month. No, we have 4,000 passengers per day. So if we're making 109 to 110 million naira, we've gotten approval from the president and the cabinet to secure that money and begin to pay back to the Chinese government. We believe that about 3 to 4 months we give you about $1 million. That's not enough to pay the entire loan. But by the time you begin to run from Lagos to Kano, you will no longer be making 109 million. You will be making much more than that, because at that point you have to include cargoes. And when you include cargoes, the cost of transportation for cargoes is by far higher than the cost of transportation for passengers. So somehow nearly half of it could be paid from the running of the rail lines. But most importantly is that the government has to fund it. But you don't have to look at the possibility of repayment. What you should look at is what is the contribution of rail to the development of the economy and the Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. You will agree with me that cost of goods are informed by the cost of transportation. You also agree with me to a great extent that the economy cannot be propelled to growth if the transportation sector is in comatose. So basically, you cannot do without transportation. The roads are bad. When they work on the road, you need to reduce the volume of cargoes that go by the road. And when you do that, you secure and protect the roads. And those goods will be transferred to the rail lines. So you can't quantify the benefits that you get out of these rail lines. You can't quantify the benefits you get out of transportation. You can't quantify the number of jobs you create out of this. All that will be part of the process of reform. So you don't look at the ability of the rail lines to generate cash to be able to pay back. It will be extremely difficult to do that. We believe that other sectors of the economy may have to contribute to pay back the loans we are taking.
All right, Honorable Minister for Transportation, Rotimi Amaechi, thanks a lot for joining us on the program. Happy Democracy Day to you as well.